Folks, it's been a long journey, but we've finally come to the end of the road. 7 months ago, I embarked on a journey to create a statistically perfect Mario Party game, where each and every board was meticulously designed and optimized with mathematical rigor to be as fun as possible. We've covered all sorts of ground, from the importance of player choice to the mechanics of random generation and properly balancing an economy. But today, for this 7th and final board, I don't have a crazy gimmick. I'm not rewriting the laws of Mario Party itself. No, I think that I've earned a little victory lap. A week to take it easy, throw together all the stuff that we've learned, and make one last pretty great board. That is what I would say if I were a coward. Today, I want to talk about Mario Party 9 and 10, also known as the car game. In these, there are no player choices, there are no strategic opportunities, there is only the car. Fans collectively panned this design philosophy when it was first introduced in Mario Party 9. They wailed in despair when it was brought back in 10, and they sang songs of their rejoice when it was done away with in Super. Ding dong, the car is dead. And I think I can fix it. You may call it hubris. You can warn me of Icarus and his fateful flight towards that great celestial body. But here's the thing. Just don't make your wings out of wax and you'll be fine. Today, I am creating the statistically best Mario Party car board. And perhaps the best board, period. Richard, hit that intro. So, before we can start creating the perfect car-style board, we first need to understand why they failed to work in the first place. For those who have never played Mario Party 9 and 10, first of all, probably a good call. But as panned as these games often are for breaking too far from the established formula, they do share some things in common with the Mario Party games of old. You roll dice to move spaces, you occasionally play minigames, and well, actually, that's about it. Unlike most Mario Party games, where everyone has the ability to move around the board as they please, here, everyone is stuck in a car together. If I roll a 4, everybody's going 4. If Richard wants to go left, everybody's going left. Idiot! That was our exit right there, dude! Now we're gonna have... Now, because everyone moves together as a unit, you can't do the usual race to the star thing. Everyone would just always reach it at the exact same time. Instead, these boards tend to be long, straight lines with the occasional branching path. Scattered along these boards are little mini stars for you to pick up. If you're in the driver's seat when you pass some mini stars, you pick them up. And there are some points where you all compete in a mini game to get a bunch of mini stars, and whoever has the most by the time you reach the end is the winner. Because mini stars can be picked up for free, there's no need for coins in this game. And since there are no coins, there's no need to play mini games in between every turn. Instead, you only play mini games when you land on specific spaces. And that's kind of a shame, because there are some really great minigames in here. You just don't get to play them that often. Now, if you've watched the rest of this series, you may have already started to pick up on some of the problems with this style of board. And that is the complete removal of player agency. You don't get to pick where you go, you don't get to plan ahead, you're basically just at the mercy of everybody's rolls and have to cross your fingers that you happen to be in the driver's seat when you pass some mini-stars. It's pretty much all luck, and they don't even really try to hide it. Now, a lot of people would probably say that this formula was doomed from the start, and they were fools to even try it. But I don't think that's necessarily true. There is potentially a lot of fun to be had here if you get the balance right. The way that they executed it, yes, isn't that fun. But a competitive game where players are forced to cooperate in some way, now that is potentially interesting. Riddle me this. What is the most impactful, cutthroat, and hilarious thing you can do in Mario Party? To me, the answer is obvious. 2v2 minigame. Your partner only needs a few more coins to be able to afford that star right in front of them. If you win that minigame, you get some coins, and your partner gets that star that they worked so hard for. Or you could throw the minigame, sacrifice your own coins, and drag your partner kicking and screaming down with you. Moments like this provide the ultimate strategic opportunity. If you want to help yourself, you also have to help everybody else, which makes the games way more fun, and also, it's hilarious! So my pitch for this board is that one glorious, friendship-shattering, memory-cementing moment for the entire game. So, how do we pull this off? Well, here's the general premise. As opposed to the other boards in this series, which had one consistent setting and theme, this one is a road trip. Players travel together in one car, with each player getting a turn in the driver's seat, just like the main game. Feels like kind of cheating if I didn't use that part. As you travel down this road, you will occasionally come across forks in the road, and whoever is driving at that moment will get to pick which way everybody goes. And I'm not talking those tiny little splits from 9 and 10, where you pick a way, get about halfway down yourself, and then the next guy just gets to the point where they come back together, so none of it really mattered anyway. No, the branches in this board never come back together. You start on a simple, straight road, which eventually comes to a branch. At the end of each of those branches is another branch, and at the end of those is another branch, creating this sprawling tree of different paths. And to ensure that each of these choices actually matters, each of these branches or legs can have its own character and visual theme. You could go left and drive through the safe, peaceful plains where everybody's gonna have a good time. Or you could turn right into the flaming volcano of doom, filled with nothing but pure, distilled pain, a sea of red spaces and despair. Sure, it's gonna be a bad time for you, but it's also gonna be a bad time for everyone else. This design accomplishes a bunch of things at once. First of all, it ensures that your decisions matter. If someone really wants to go left, you could screw them over and just go right. And now, everybody has to deal with your mistakes. There's no going back, there's no do-overs. Your only hope is to beg and bargain with whoever happens to be driving to take you down the road you want. And it also hits on another factor we've talked about in past videos, replayability. Sure, the board itself is the same every time, but you can always pick a new route and travel to a new area you've never been before. It creates this sprawling adventure where you have to play again and again and again to see what's around every corner. But there's still one big problem to solve with this board. How do you win? Well, big shocker, I'm throwing out the mini stars. They rely way too heavily on luck, which in practice isn't all that fun. So we're bringing back the classic coins and stars. You still collect coins from landing on blue spaces, and you still play mini games in between every round. However, we're going to have to make a few changes to stars to ensure that they work in this format. So how about this? Instead of the star being on a specific space on the board or at the end of the track, there are certain checkpoints along the way. Maybe 2 to 4, depending on how long of a game you choose to play. When the car reaches one of these checkpoints, everybody gets a chance to buy stars. It doesn't matter who the driver is. And to avoid a bunch of ties where everybody just buys a star at every checkpoint, let's say that you can buy up to 3 at a time if you can afford them. And as a fun little twist to pay homage to the battle minigames from 9 and 10, which were pretty fun, whenever you reach one of these checkpoints, you all partake in a special battle minigame, and your placement in said minigame determines the price you have to pay per star. So the person in first can buy a star for 10, second has to pay 15, then 20, and 25. This happens at each checkpoint, which you'll always cross no matter what lane you pick. And whoever has the most stars when you reach the end is the winner. In broad strokes, it's not too different from 9 and 10, but I think the little details are where this board will really shine. And so, I give you all Lemmy's Looney Lanes. Because he's the only one left. The first thing we need to figure out is how big this board should be. So, let's do a little math. In a previous video, we found that you will move an average of 8.12 spaces per turn, factoring in the occasional items. Since all players are moving together, that means that the car will move 32.48 spaces around. Now, I want to make sure that these lanes are long enough that you don't just blow past the whole thing. I want to make my friends really sit with my bad choices for a while. And I also want to make sure that different people get to make the choice each time. So let's say that each leg should take an average of 3.75 full rounds to get through. That way, you'll probably hit a fork at a different point in the rotation each time. At 32.48 spaces per round, that means that each lane should have around 121 spaces. And now, that is a bit long to just go in a straight line, so maybe within these larger branches, you can have the little splits that quickly come back together. These don't need to have massive game-altering effects, they're more about spicing up your individual turn. Now, obviously, since the game only ends when you reach the end, you can't set a distinct turn limit like with the other boards. But we still want a way to adjust the length of the game, so here, instead of choosing a number of turns, you choose a number of legs. For shorter games, you can stop after 3 legs, which will probably equate to around 10 to 12 turns. Pretty short. If you want a longer game, you could go up to 5 legs for closer to a 20-turn game. Honestly, still a bit shorter than I wanted, but the problem with adding more and more legs is that the number of required unique endpoints gets exponentially higher. Yeah, I'd love to sit here and say that Nintendo should let us go on a cross-country 9-leg drive and create 256 unique paths all for a single board, but that feels a little unrealistic. To compensate, instead we can make legs 4 and 5 a bit longer than the previous ones, so a 4-leg game would take an average of 20 turns, and a 5-leg game would take 25 to 30. Now, normally, this is the part of the video where I would go through space by space, figuring out exactly what each one should be. At 5 legs long, that is a total of 31 unique paths. paths, each with a minimum of 121 spaces for a total of 3,751 spaces that I would have to figure out. I'm not doing that. So instead, I'll just go through the flavors and ideas that I had for some of these paths, as well as some fun events you could include. And to the dozen or so people who have already asked if they could make their own party game using my board designs with enough changes to not get sued into oblivion by Nintendo, I'll leave the rest to you. So for example, you could start in a basic plains area, your classic 1-1 inspired area with nothing crazy going on. Then you can run through the gamut of Mario themes. A desert section with lots of hazards that harm the group, but also opportunities for free dice blocks as you speed down empty roads. A snow area where you could slide off the track and force everyone to chip in for a towing service. A water zone where your car turns into a duck boat and you have to work together to fend off pirates. Stuff like that. And now with 31 paths, you need a lot more themes than this, but you could also get away with repeating some as long as you don't put them in a single line. But feel free to leave your own suggestions down below. Remember, we want events that require some level of cooperation, so you have a golden opportunity to be as uncooperative as possible. Another fun idea I had to incentivize choosing one path over another is by making them affect the bonus stars. Normally, at the end of every Mario Party game, 3 random bonus stars are selected and awarded to players based on certain criteria. Maybe this time, instead of being random, they can be tied to the path that you took. So if you went left at the first fork, the happening star is locked in, but if you go right, you'll get the minigame star instead. And players will be able to see all the stars at each branch at the start of the game. So maybe you decide at the beginning that you want to gun it for the running star all the way to the left and try and use as many dice blocks as you can. Or if you know that the minigame star is down the road to the left and your buddy is absolutely cracked at minigames, you could just go to the right. Just to add yet another layer of strategy and the opportunity to impact other players. Item shops should work similarly to the stars in that when you pass them, everybody gets a chance to get out and go buy stuff. Stretch your legs, get some snacks, use the bathroom, classic road stop activities. Items that allow you to change your dice are obviously the most interesting because they affect everyone, but you also have an opportunity to add in unique items that would only work in this format, like a Mario Kart banana. Place it on a space ahead of you, and whoever's driving when you pass it loses a bunch of coins. Just hope that they don't all band together to move as slow as possible and make you fall on your own sword. As for happening spaces, I think there are loads of opportunities for fun road trip inspired events. Maybe the driver has to get out and pay for gas. Maybe you get a flat tire and everyone has to sacrifice an item as they get out to go push. Stuff like that, with a good mix of things that affect just the driver and things that affect everyone, so you can all yell and scream at someone for something that wasn't their fault at all. And if you want to lean more into the competitive cooperation aspect, I had a fun idea for a little game inspired by the famous Prisoner's Dilemma called Lemmy's Lottery. If you land on certain happening spaces scattered liberally across the board, Lemmy will pop out and offer everyone a choice between 2 things themed after the area that you're in. So maybe if you're on a beach, he'll offer a coconut or a mango. And everyone simply has to pick one of them in secret. If everyone picks the same object, you all get 10 coins. If you pick one object and everyone else picks another, the one person gets 30 coins. If the votes are split 2 and 2, everybody loses 10 coins. Simple as that. Now, you can have as much time as you want to discuss amongst yourselves and all agree, okay, we're all picking mango to get the coins. Got it? Everyone got it? Okay. Well, here's the thing. If you just switch to the coconut and let all those chumps go with the plan, you could make some bank. You just gotta hope that I don't have the same idea and we all lose. Or, God forbid, you, me, and Richard all try to pull one over on each other and Hammer Bro ends up walking away with fat stacks for being the only honest dude in the bunch. You greedy bastards, look what you did. I can't judge, I'm in there too. And there you have it. With just a few simple changes, we have turned the hated car board into something completely unique, cutthroat, and hopefully incredibly fun. Yes, everyone has to move together, but we haven't entirely removed player agency. And in fact, since every choice you make will impact every other player for the rest of the game, your choices actually matter more than usual, and people will hopefully be more invested in the game, even when it's not their turn. And, just like that, we've reached the end of our series. One board for each of the 7 Koopalings, each as statistically perfect as the last. Nintendo, your move. Oh, what is this? Oh my god, is this a post-credit scene with a twist that has been so subtly and expertly teased throughout the whole series? Oh my god.
In that magic 8, I forgot to include any more clues.
I'll see you all next week for the finale of the statistically best Mario Party game. Richard, let's get ready to Dude, I told you the exit was to our left. Where you go? And a huge thank you to all my supporters on Patreon, including Alakazam, Aspa102, Big Dog Tie for to Win, Captain Kirby, Sidian, Sherry and Mark, Stylish, The Boss Killer 94, Ty Studio, Tricks of Crows, and did you know that the character limit on Patreon is very high? Well, it is high enough, in fact, that I could name myself M.